In a city built on power and secrets, justice was never meant to be simple. It started quietly, a whisper in a courthouse hallway, a missing signature, an empty chair. The corruption trial against Westbridge Industries was supposed to expose everything. But truth has a way of disappearing. Witnesses. Journalists. Anyone who dared speak. One by one, gone. As fear spreads like wildfire through the legal system, a relentless prosecutor refuses to back down. But in Westbridge, the deeper you dig for the truth, the closer you get to being erased. Tonight, we uncover the chilling mystery behind the disappearances that silenced an entire city. It began with whispers, small, almost imperceptible murmurs among the legal community in the city. The corruption trial against the high-ranking officials of Westbridge Industries was supposed to be the most consequential in decades. The courtroom was packed every day, journalists snapping photos, lawyers pacing, and the prosecutors leaning over stacks of evidence that seemed to stretch endlessly. But the first sign that something was terribly wrong came not from the courtroom itself, but from the sudden absence of a key witness. Elena Markov had been scheduled to testify on a Tuesday morning. She was a mid-level accountant with Westbridge, meticulous, quiet, the kind of person who always kept a notebook filled with scribbles that no one else could decipher. When the marshal arrived at her apartment to escort her to court, the door was ajar. Inside, it was as if she had simply evaporated. Her belongings were untouched. Her car remained in the driveway. No note, no sign of struggle, nothing but the faint scent of lavender and a lingering sense of unease. News of Elena's disappearance spread quickly. Some assumed she had panicked, others whispered about foul play. The prosecution pushed forward, attempting to substitute another witness, but the tension in the air was palpable. By the end of the week, another disappearance occurred, this time, a former project manager named Victor Hanley. He had a detailed timeline that implicated multiple executives in fraudulent deals. When law enforcement checked into his home, they found the TV still on, dinner half-eaten, and his dog pacing anxiously, hungry and confused. Each new morning brought with it a new name. Witnesses vanished with uncanny precision, almost as if someone was orchestrating their disappearance, leaving behind only faint, untraceable traces. It was unnerving. Family members, friends, even co-workers began to fear for their own safety. The courthouse, usually a place of order and structure, had transformed into something far more sinister, a stage where every day felt like the countdown to another unexplained absence. Detectives struggled to find patterns, any lead that could point to the perpetrators. CCTV footage yielded nothing. Homes and apartments were untouched. It was as though the people simply ceased to exist. And yet, the trial couldn't pause. The stakes were too high, and the public demanded justice. Prosecutors worked around the absences, sometimes reading prepared statements aloud, hoping their words carried the same weight as live testimony. But the tension was unrelenting. It wasn't just the witnesses who vanished. Small-time journalists investigating the case began to go missing as well. Laptop screens left on, notes scattered, audio recorders still humming with half-finished interviews. An unshakable fear settled over anyone associated with the case. Rumors circulated of black SUVs and unmarked vans seen lurking near apartments. People whispered about a shadow network, capable of erasing anyone who dared speak. As the trial progressed, the judge became increasingly exasperated. Lawyers demanded protection for their clients and witnesses, but the marshals and police seemed powerless. Every protective measure, bodyguards, surveillance, safe houses, was circumvented with alarming ease. The city was gripped by a fear that was both rational and irrational. People locked doors, double-checked phone calls, and kept moving, but no one felt safe. The media began to speculate wildly. Some claimed organized crime was behind it. Others suggested a private paramilitary group, contracted to protect the interests of Westbridge's executives. Conspiracy theories exploded, but in the quiet corridors of the courthouse, those closest to the case could sense the truth was even more chilling. someone with immense resources and meticulous planning was determined to prevent justice at all costs. In one of the more harrowing moments, the prosecution tried to bring in an anonymous witness, someone who claimed to have first-hand knowledge of embezzlement within Westbridge. Even that person disappeared overnight, leaving only a hastily scribbled note, "You can't stop it. They are watching." It became clear that the trial was unraveling not because of legal arguments or insufficient evidence, but because the very people who could speak the truth were being systematically erased. Jurors whispered among themselves, security cameras caught fleeting glimpses of figures at the edges of streets, but every lead dissolved into shadows. The courtroom transformed into a theater of anxiety and dread. Weeks passed, and the city's sense of normalcy eroded. Attorneys, journalists, even some court officials began requesting transfers, citing personal safety concerns. The prosecutor, a determined woman named Maria Chen, refused to back down, driven by a moral compass she could not abandon. She began to piece together the patterns herself, analyzing dates, locations, and minor coincidences. One detail emerged: every witness disappeared after reporting a specific type of activity, always financial anomalies, always directly implicating one senior executive, a man named Charles Vickers. Maria decided to confront Vickers directly, seeking an interview under the guise of routine questioning. His office was pristine, minimalistic, exuding control. His demeanor was calm, even charming, but there was an unsettling coldness in his eyes. Maria noticed something subtle: a photograph of a family, faces familiar yet slightly altered, almost as if they were placeholders. The encounter was brief, professional, but beneath the surface, Maria felt the same tension that had gripped everyone involved. Later that evening, as she reviewed her notes alone in her apartment, Maria realized she had left a minor breadcrumb, a detail that could identify her location if someone were watching. That night, she barely slept, doors locked, windows secured, phone on silent. The sense of being hunted was no longer theoretical, it was tangible. The trial dragged on, skeletal in attendance, with empty seats where key witnesses should have been. Evidence was read aloud from paper, video depositions from anonymous sources, but the room felt hollow, haunted by the missing. Those who remained were shadows themselves, constantly glancing over shoulders, aware that any misstep could result in disappearance. Finally, the prosecution attempted a bold move: a public hearing, televised live, hoping that the transparency of cameras and the eyes of the nation would prevent further abductions. The first speaker took the stand, voice trembling, eyes darting nervously. As the camera zoomed in, the feed froze. Technical difficulties, the network claimed, but in the courtroom, no one believed it. The witness was gone. Just like that. No signs of struggle. No explanation. Fear became the new currency of Westbridge. Courtroom observers stopped attending. Lawyers conducted meetings in secret locations. Even journalists who attempted to report were met with silence, or vanished. The trial became less about justice and more about survival, the corridors of law now echoing with the absence of those who dared to testify. Months later, after the case was effectively dismantled by the disappearances, a chilling silence fell over the city. Investigators could find no trace of Elena, Victor, Maria, or the other witnesses. Westbridge Industries continued its operations, unscathed, shielded by shadows and fear. Rumors persisted, whispers of a shadow network so deep, so meticulous, that it could erase any obstacle. Occasionally, a letter or a note would appear in a lawyer's mailbox, unsigned, warning them to stay quiet. But no one could confirm the source. The city learned a cruel lesson: sometimes the law cannot protect those who seek to uphold it, and truth can vanish as easily as a name on a page. And in the quiet moments, when the streets are empty and the night presses close, one can almost hear the faint echo of voices that were never meant to be silenced, gone, yet somehow still demanding to be remembered.